Welcome back to the Great Guitar Build-Off video part 3. One of the things about these videos is I have not done them as a tutorial. I mean, there's some steps in there I'm telling you how I did things. I do have over 4 hours of recordings with more detail. If anyone's interested in me publishing those, I can publish those outside the Great Guitar Build-Off on my regular channel. Just let me know. And now we'll continue with the build. Alright, so the next step is going to be to cut out the openings for the pickups and for the control cavity. So what I've done is I've taken a Forstner bit and I've drilled out most of the waste. Of course, the control cavity is going into the hollow, and then I'm just going to route it smooth around the edge of the template to clean up the edges. Doing the same with the pickups, just going in about 1/8 of an inch at a time and going down to the final depth. It's important that they are deep enough that the pickups and the screws don't get hung up. In the back, what I've done is the through holes for the strings, except for one which I went a little too far, I drilled them straight through, but I just went until the point of the brad point bit came out the back. That gives me a point to countersink, and as you can see now, the countersunk holes look pretty good. It's very easy to mess those up, and then everything's uneven. For the neck pocket, what I've got is a template that uses the bridge screw holes as a guide. So I've taken 1/8 inch drill bits, put them through the holes into the holes I pre-drilled for the bridge, double stick tape along the center line, used a Forstner bit to get some of the waste out, and now I'm going to use my router to go in and clean out the rest of the neck pocket. And that's now done. Came out nice and smooth, proper depth. The neck fits right into the pocket just like you want it to. Now I'm going to use rasps and files to create that little tummy cut. So I am starting with a very aggressive Shinto rasp, and then I will move to a rounded aggressive rasp to kind of smooth it out and round off the edges. And then I'm going to switch to a fine file to pull off some of those rasp marks and get it close to a point where I can sand it to make it smooth. When I do the final sanding, it will smooth it all out. But right now I'm using the fine rasp, and there you can see it. The tummy cut is roughed out. I didn't run into the cavity in the body, so I don't have a top sound hole. And now I'm just going to sand the edges smooth. I really love this tool, this belt and spindle sander. I'm just going to take it and I'm going to sand off, get some of those burn marks off, smooth it out so that it'd be ready for finish soon. Now I'm routing a 1/8 round over on the top and on the back. I'm starting with the back, and then I will do the top, and it gives you a few moments of fear with that very, very thin myrtle burl veneer on there. Was I going to chip it out? And fortunately I did not chip it out, so I was very happy with that result. Body is looking good. Almost ready for final sanding. At this point I'm going to cut the nut slot into the neck. I have the forward slot for the nut, but now I've got to make a cut 1/8 inch behind it, and I'm using a 1/8, actually a 3mm chisel to clear out most of the waste from the nut slot, so that will be ready to accept our nut. I like using hand tools when I can. It's nice and quiet. The next step is taking a carving tool and I've got a protective piece of plywood in case the tool comes through. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to get to start the curved piece going down to the peg head, and the carving tools will take away a good part of it, and then I'll use round rasps and files to refine that curve, and then I'll clean it up with sandpaper to give it a nice smooth transition into the peg head. At this point, the neck is looking pretty good. We're ready to begin carving. And what I've done is I've marked a center line. I've split the center line in half on the back. I've gone down halfway on the sides and marked that. And now I'm using the Shinto rasp to begin rough carving the neck. I've got it in a vise with wooden jaws that I've made for it. And I will use wedges as I get farther down the neck. At the back end of the neck, I'm going to use a rounded rasp to get into the curve around the end of the neck where it attaches to the body to give us that nice transition. And it just takes a little time. The neck is now fully carved and partially sanded, so it is ready for final sanding and fretting. And there they are. Feeling pretty good. The body's ready is sanded actually at this point to 220 grit. The top I hand sanded because of the veneer. The neck has been sanded to 220 grit. And we're going to actually start putting finish on the body because it's a lot more steps. The neck I can finish faster because I can do the top of the peg head and the back of the neck. I'm using True Oil. This is a really great finish. I use that or nitrocellulose lacquer. Unfortunately, with the cold weather here, I have to spray lacquer outside and it's just too cold. But True Oil, I think I really prefer the True Oil, a nice oil finish with that burl. So I'm just going to take some of the oil, rub it into the wood, let it absorb it. 3, 4, 5 coats, whatever you like, whatever you like as far as the quality of the finish. I prefer a fairly light finish to let the wood resonate. And now I'm just putting my brand mark on the back of the peg head with my logo. A little big for the front of the peg head. I'll have to see about doing something for the front. And now it's time for frets. And even though this is not a bound fretboard, I usually undercut the frets a little bit just so that you don't get a sharp edge poking out. I find it easier to keep the sharp ends down, and you can always fill that gap with little sawdust and super glue when you're done. And I just hammer the frets into place. These frets were pre-curved. And it's EVO gold frets, medium frets that I'm using. They do show off nice against the Zuricoti. Now I've got to bevel the fret ends, and I do use the Crimson beveling tool, which is absolutely phenomenal. The last few guitars I've made have been the cleanest fret ends I have ever made, and it's really due to this tool. And sorry for the angle. I don't have a good position to put my camera, which is actually my iPad. Now the frets are beveled. We're going to level the frets, and all I'm doing is I'm putting a mark with a Sharpie on top of each fret. And I probably should have put tape on the fingerboard at this point, but I forgot, making sure the neck is straight before I run the sanding beam over it. And I'm using 400 grit or 320 grit, sorry about that. 320 grit for the sandpaper. I want to keep it light. I don't want to take off too much, and I don't mind going a little longer to get to where I need to be, as long as I don't take off too much. Just getting all that marker off the top. Once the marker's off the top of every fret, they should be pretty level. Now I have put the tape on, and I'm going to take my fret crowning file and I'm going to re-crown the frets. Of course, we create a nice flat spot on top of them, and now we've got to round the fret back over again. And it's just a case of taking your time. I did put black marker on again, and what we're doing, instead of taking the marker off the top, we want to run the crowning file until we've just got a thin line across the top, because we don't want to lower the frets any now, that because they'll all be out of alignment. But you leave yourself a nice thin line, and they're crowned nicely. And now I'm going with an end file, and what I'm doing is I am rounding off the ends of the frets so they don't stick on your fingers. All I have to say, after the previous tool, it pretty much left them smooth. And now I'm using the crimson fret rubbers, starting with coarse, and I'm going to polish the frets, make them nice and smooth, remove tool marks, and give you a nice smooth surface to play. Coarse all the way up to super fine is what I do on those. Taking the tape off, we've got some really nice frets, but there still are a few sharp ends. The tape kind of gives you a little bit of a, I don't know what you say, but it's a gap, so you may not get all the sharp ends. So I take the tape off. The file I'm using is a triangle file. The corners are smooth, so I don't do any damage. And that brings us to the end of this video. Again, thank you for watching. If you have any comments, please leave them below. Please like and subscribe if you like what you're seeing. I do have some more videos coming up. I think the next video may be the last for this series, but I know I've got some furniture building videos coming out, and I will probably have a ukulele building video in the next few weeks, which I'm pretty excited about. But thank you very much.